Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between podcast. I'm Renae Lipsmeyer. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on these videos. Thanks again for watching. Hey guys, I'm Renae with the Space Between podcast. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. Today, we have some special guests. Of course, we have Andy, who is the show editor. I've asked him to be on today to help me. And then we have Chris Wade, who is a special guest that we have on. Thank you, Chris, for being willing to be on the Space Between. How are you today?
Good, yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So first, I want to kind of start this podcast with saying it's funny who you can meet at a Dave Matthews Band concert. You never know what's in store if you are just willing to get a little bit outside of your comfort zone and kind of leave the people that you know. And because there's just so many amazing people at a show. So in Charleston, I was kind of forced into doing that. It wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, but in Charleston, there's not a lawn, and so everyone was assigned seats, and it's at a tennis, what do you call that? It's not an arena, stadium. Or is it a tennis stadium? And so I had to sit in my seat, but luckily, I mean, you can't sit by a bad person at a Dave Matthews Band concert, but I sat next to a lady who was there with her daughter, and she was just so sweet and so kind and talked to me. And so through a series of events, she mentioned her friend Chris and that he got an opportunity to meet Dave, but not only to meet Dave, but to present him with some custom Nikes that he had made. And so I just thought all of that was just an amazing story. So I immediately said, Wendy, would you think he would be willing to talk to me about the podcast? Because I think so many people would see your pictures and go, how the hell does something like that happen? And so, Chris, thank you again for being on the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what your family looks like, where you are, and how in the world all of this happened.
Yeah, so Chris Wade, originally from Wilmington, North Carolina. Currently, I live south of Charlotte, in a town called Monroe. It's a little bit out in the farmland and the woods, but it's kind of nice. We got a couple acres, so we got enough space. I've got a 17-year-old daughter. Her name's Jordan, kind of named after what I do right now. I've got a 7-year-old son, a 13-year-old son, and a 16-year-old daughter.
Awesome.
So the two older kids live with their mom in International Falls, Minnesota, and the two younger kids live with us full time. So we got to see them this summer. That was really nice, and wish we could have taken them to a concert, but the timing just wasn't there. So
yeah. Are they Dave fans? Like, do they appreciate the music?
I don't think they really knew who he was. And when I said I was making shoes for him, obviously my wife is a huge fan, and they were like, "Who?" So I had to send them some songs, and it's crazy. Just kind of chopping it up. I did some shoes for the GM of the Bears, and
wow.
There's a lady that she's the director of player engagement there, Erica. She's in her early 30s, and I said, "Oh, do you know who Dave Matthews is?" And she's like, "Eh." So I mean, I'm 43 myself, and I remember the 90s. When he was first starting to come out, and then when I was in college, everybody was listening to him. So I knew who he was, but the younger generations, they really don't know.
Not so much.
They don't. No.
Yeah.
And you didn't. Well, I'm not ashamed to admit I forced the music onto my kids, so
yes.
I didn't know if that was something you made an effort to do, and they just didn't take it.
Not really. I mean, truth be told, I grew up a huge hip hop fan, and so my kids are really into hip hop music, and that makes me happy that my kids know who Wu-Tang is, and
yes,
it's kind of Dave Matthews for me is kind of a throwback because that's what people were listening to at the time, and I mean Wu-Tang had come out right a little bit earlier than he did, but it's really cool.
That's wild. That's wild. So
awesome.
Kind of tell us, how did you, and you've told us a little bit, but like, when did you really start to get into Dave? And then you said your wife was a fan, and so was that something that she was always, and that y'all have always had together? Or tell us what the relationship with the band looks like.
Okay, so this might be a departure from most of your other guests, but I would tell you that before I went to the show in West Palm Beach, that picture that I showed you, I always made fun of Dave Matthews' music. You know, he's talked about how he sounds like a frog, and you know, I was always like, frog. She puts the music on in the car, and I'm just kind of like, again, like, kind of at that point 2 years ago, I was like, all the music kind of sounds the same, and we went to that concert, and it kind of opened my eyes. I was like, I kind of like his music now. You know, after you watch a concert, just see what he does and everything that goes into it. So yeah, I mean, I've been downloading all of Dave's albums since then, and it's kind of one of the things that my wife and I kind of get excited when we hear about a show now. It's not, you know, she still listens to it all the time in the car, and I'm like, can we listen to something different once in a while? But she's all Dave all the time.
How long ago was that?
West Palm Beach was July of 2021.
Okay. So that's so you recently are coming into Dave then?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I said, I had listened to it a little bit in late high school, early college, but I wasn't really into that genre of music. And then when I got together with my wife in 2015, immediately knew she was a huge Dave fan. Her and her circle of friends usually try to make 1 or 2 concerts a summer. And, you know, last summer she didn't make it to one, and I heard that, but we made it the year before and this year. So I hope that with the experience that we had, we've kind of planted the seed to get an invite anytime he comes to North Carolina now.
Man, that's awesome. I always like meeting, for lack of a better term, new fans, coming in and getting acquainted with the music and just converting, I guess. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I wanted to be all above board. I didn't want to come in, you know, I admittedly was not a huge fan, made fun of the music, but I kind of, you know, before this whole experience, when we went to that first concert, I was kind of like, you know what, I like this.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with what you say. You know, a lot of people have that similar story of until they saw it live, right? And then they kind of go, right? So I love that you're saying that, because that typically is true about the Dave Matthews Band. You have to see them live to really fully appreciate that. So I think that that's just proof right there that another person said it, and it must be true, right? So tell us, how long have you been doing custom shoes? Tell us about your company. Like, is this always been a passion for you? Have you always been a shoe guy? And then kind of what led you into custom doing shoes?
So, like I said, I'm from Wilmington, North Carolina, and I like to tell people that Michael Jordan went to my high school. It makes me sound like a big deal.
Yes.
But that was kind of the one tie back to Jordans. When I was growing up, you know, my dad was not going to spend $100 to $200 on a pair of Jordans, so I didn't have any.
I didn't either.
Probably about 10 years ago, after I'd been working a while and I had some money, I was like, I'm going to go buy my first pair of Jordans. And, you know, I've got, my wife would tell you, I've got shoes. The shoes are all over the wall right here behind me, or in front of me. But I have a lot of pairs of shoes. And, you know, one of the things that got me kind of into custom shoes, I started out painting first. I have a buddy that's really into the outdoors, Eric. He lives in Wilmington, and I was like, I want to do a pair of shoes for him. Eric and I always had a Wu-Tang hip-hop connection. We always listened to rap music when we were in the car going to school. And I was like, I talked to his wife. I was like, I want to make a pair of Wu-Tang shoes. And she's like, nah, he's into the outdoors and kayaking and camping and, you know, hiking and running. I think you want to do like an outdoor theme. So I was like, okay. I painted a pair of outdoor themed shoes, had a guy climbing on a mountain, some leaves, some compasses on the toe boxes. And that was the first pair I'd ever, you know, painted to give to somebody, and gave them to him as a surprise for his birthday, posted them on social media. And then I started to get kind of the slow trickle of, well, can you do anime? Can you do Carolina Panthers? Can you do App State? And it's just kind of snowballed from there. And, you know, the price that you can get for a painted pair of shoes, I mean, you're very little investment in the paint. The paint's not too expensive.
It's the time.
Yeah, and the time. But the time to paint a pair of shoes could be anywhere from 3 to 6, 10 hours. I had about 42 hours in the Dave shoes that I built.
God
So there's
bless.
obviously a lot more time, a lot more, buying the materials, cutting the materials, sewing everything together. There was a lot of embroidery work on those shoes. Lots of
So
different.
these aren't like existing pairs of shoes that you buy off the shelf somewhere and just manipulate them, or you get like a blank slate, for lack of a better term, blank slate, like a white pair of whatever model shoes they're looking for, and then you go to town on it.
So when I build a pair of shoes, I'll just buy the cheapest Jordan one because that's mainly what I've built.
Okay.
So basically everything above this rubber outsole, I take it off and throw it out. And then I trace out all the leather, stitch everything, punch all the holes, do the insides, the foams, everything.
That's so fucking cool.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, and this is actually the first pair of shoes that I made for myself.
Oh my God, those are awesome.
It's really cool, like iridescent leather, and there's definitely a lot that I would have done different. This is just learning, but I don't know if you can see this. But, no, you
Reflective.
can't. You can't really see it, but this part right here glows in the dark.
Oh my God.
I just wanted to do something a little bit different for my first pair, and I had never seen, that pattern of that iridescent leather was elephant print, like the classic Jordan elephant print, and there you can kind of see it glowing there.
Oh shit! Now you can see it.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
it is.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like a matrix leather,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's been crazy, kind of who I've had a chance to make shoes for, and who I've painted shoes for. I painted a pair for Ted Leonsis. He's the owner of the Wizards and the Capitals up in Washington. His son reached out to me to get a pair. Like I said, I did one for the GM of the Bears. I built him a pair very similar to this one. This is kind of what it looks like before I put the sole on.
Uh-huh.
And there's a plastic foot that you wrap it around and then nail it to the last, which is just a plastic foot. Looks like this.
Wow.
So is this something that you have kind of self-taught yourself? Or is this something that you were taught how to do? Like, how did you get so good at it?
I don't think I'm ever going to say that I'm good at it. It's always a learning process. Even so, a little quick story. This pair of shoes, I had cut out the wrong size pattern, and the GM wore a bigger size, and I went to go put it on the last, and I'm here at the finish line, and I'm like, it's too small. And these were actually a pair that I did for him that he wore for the NFL draft. Because this was the first year, he's second year GM.
Wow.
First year he was going to be picking a first round draft pick. So that was kind of the draw to get it to him before the draft. Well, I figured that out the Friday before. The draft was on the following Thursday.
Oh my God.
So I basically figured that out on a Friday night, and then I was like, okay, I've got to basically go cut out another pattern. I've got to recut all the materials to the right size. And like I said, I mean, a pair Dave's shoes took me 40 hours. This took me just over 30. I mean, I had all day Saturday, all day Sunday, Monday, just making sure everything like fit good, wasn't coming apart. And then I had to overnight them Tuesday to get them there on Wednesday so he could wear them on Thursday.
That's amazing. So how did it come to be where you cross paths with Dave?
It's kind of a crazy story. So I did not play baseball in high school, but the baseball coach at my high school, Trent Mongero, he went to K through 8 with Dave up in New York. And after 8th grade, they kind of, moved and life kind of got away. They all started going about their way, high school and all that. Not until about 15 years ago, Dave was actually on a radio show telling a story about how he was watching, the old Bob Saget, America's Funniest Home Videos, and saw the Mongero football follies. And he was talking on a radio show and said, there's only one guy I know, and that's Trent Mongero. And so then, when I was talking to Trent about it, Trent's like, he's on this radio show. My phone starts blowing up. People are like, Dave fucking Matthews is talking about you on his radio show. And, and he talked about how they didn't keep in touch and that they'd love to connect again. Well, after that, Trent calls up the radio station and says, "Hey, I'm Trent Mongero."
Yes.
And it was really cool. After the concert in Wilmington, they're both like, Dave's telling part, Trent's telling part. So I kind of got the, firsthand account of how this all happened. And Trent calls up the radio show and says, "Hey, I'm Trent Mongero," like kind of validated who he was. And then he asked the radio host, like, "So can you give me his number?" The guy's like, "No, I can't do that." Like didn't make the connection for him. And it happened, the way that after that, they basically just said it was a bus driver's family members, somehow weird connection that they were able to get back in touch. And, for the last 15 years, every time Dave comes to North Carolina, Trent and his family, they go see all the shows. So it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. That is really amazing.
The way that I reconnected with Trent, his son just graduated college, and we were talking about doing a name, image, and likeness deal with him to do, like, he would push my shoes and I would, throw him some money on the side. We didn't end up doing that. He already had like a glove deal and a bat deal, and he was in the middle of his senior baseball season. So he didn't want to take on, trying to push shoes and all that.
Sure.
So we kind of tabled that for now, or at the time. Now, maybe we'll pick it up later on, but, through that, he was like, Trent said, "Oh yeah, I know Dave Matthews." And I'm like, "Really?" My wife is the biggest fan. And I was like, "It'd be really cool if I could make him a pair of shoes." And he's like, "Yeah, we'll do it. Whenever he announces his summer tour," because he's come to, Old Walnut Creek and Charlotte sometimes. And he came, obviously this summer he came to Wilmington. And I'm like, it's perfect. I get a chance to go home for a couple of days, go to the shows with my wife, who's in love with Dave Matthews, and just be a really cool experience. And we'll get to give him these shoes that I made for him.
Yeah.
Man, that's so fucking cool.
That's amazing. All the connections
Yeah, it was kind of unbelievable. And, that was the end of May. And then early June, I drove up to International Falls to pick my 13-year-old up. Just decided to drive instead of fly because flying was way expensive this summer. And on the way back, my mom rode up with me. And on the way back, my mom and son, we got to stop by the Chicago Bears facility. And we spent almost the whole day with them. They gave my son a signed Justin Fields helmet. They gave us a couple of footballs, kind of gave us the behind the scenes, went in the draft room, sat in the chair where they do all the interviews there at House Hall. Got to watch the entire practice, got to eat lunch with them. So, I mean,
oh my God,
just the whole, like, Dave week, plus the Chicago Bears week, plus having my 13-year-old with me, I was like dad of the year for a week, it was really cool.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Husband of the week, dad of the week, like you were all of the things. So now
That's
when
a year,
absolutely.
Week.
Yeah. Of the lifetime. So when it came to Dave's shoes, like, and we have some pictures. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, definitely be sure to check this particular video out on YouTube, because you're going to want to see all of the pictures of the shoes that Chris has put together for Dave. So when it came to these shoes, tell me, like, what did you have a little bit of guidance on what went on the shoes, or was what you did to the shoes a complete surprise to Dave when you gave them to him?
I had free reign to do whatever I wanted. And
awesome.
what I wanted to do, I didn't want it to be like a fan pair. It's got Dave's face all over it. It's got Dave Matthews all over it.
That's what I would do.
No, I mean, but would you want a pair of Andy Mendoza shoes that say Andy all over them? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll take it. But I get your point.
Hey, we'll just hold on to your credit card after this. We'll talk.
Right.
Yes.
But no, I wanted to do something kind of take a step through, because I did a massive amount of research going in, when I was going in to make these shoes. I wanted it to be something that was recognizable, something that was very unique, very different, that, people hadn't really seen before. And, the embroidery work alone was probably about 6 or 7 hours just total time trying to figure out the colors, where I wanted things to go. And basically, I could probably just walk you straight through the shoes. So
yeah. Well, Andy's going to put a pair of shoes right now for everyone to see. Yeah. So step us through those shoes while everyone is checking them out.
Yeah, so on the inside of one of the shoes, I put the logo that I found for Trax in Charlottesville, and I thought that was pretty cool, kind of where he got his start.
Yeah.
On the heels of both of the shoes, I have basically musical notes, just something a little bit different. On the outside of one heel, I've got the South African flag. And then on the other heel, I've got his sister's name there. Just thought that would be, some connection that he would understand. People that maybe aren't the biggest fans or don't know his whole story be like, why did he put Ann on the shoe? And people will know the story about Ann. He lives in Seattle. He's a huge Seattle Seahawks fan, so I put that on one of the tongues. I was trying to figure out a way to kind of incorporate the dreaming tree with the fire dancer, so I put that on the other tongue. That. On both of the toe caps, the brown, I've got a violin and a guitar. I wasn't really sure how that was going to go. If he was going to accept the violin being on there, or just with the whole the background there. But I wanted to. You got here for a reason, and why not, give a nod to everybody. And so I thought that was important to put on there. For the swooshes on the outside, I did the mama bear and the 3 baby bears for his 3 children and his wife. On the heels, I did basically the fire dancer, and then on the back of one of the heels, I had the initials JAH and then 23. And I'll send you the video of when I gave him the shoes and how I was explaining it to him. But
yes,
I held out the shoe and I said, "Hey, what is that? What are those letters?" And he's like, "Is that J.A. Jennifer Ashley?" And I'm like, "Yep." And he's like, "What's the 23?" And I was like, "How many years you been married?" He's like, "Oh."
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
So much thought.
And then I had the ants marching on there.
I saw that. Yeah.
I'm trying to think. I think that's most of everything I had on there. Another cool thing. So during COVID, Dave proclaimed that he had gone vegan, and when I mentioned that to him, he was kind of like, so I don't know if he's eating meat again or not, but the white, the brown, and the black leather is all vegan leather. It's not real leather.
Amazing.
It's actually made out of cactus leaves, and it smells like leather, feels like leather. And then just kind of an added bonus in there, or two bonuses, I guess. I had one where you put your finger on one of the black sections, and it changes to like I don't know if you're familiar with the Civilus Nikes. They look black, but then you hit them with heat, and they're all kind of light up.
They turn color.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. So I had pieces of that on there, and then at the end of it, I was just like, oh yeah, and these soles, they glow in the dark too.
That's awesome.
Man, it's amazing. I love the insole with the cover from Grugrex King from that album. That's so neat.
Well, and it was cool at the Wilmington show. Kind of towards the end, they did this, big to do for him. Had that, and I was like, oh, that's on the video board, and I'm like, I put that on the insole of a shoe. So that Grugrex King, obviously for him, and then the concert poster from the tribute that they did right after he passed. That's the other insole.
I saw that.
So yeah, it was really cool, just kind of learning all of this, through the R&D process, and then saying, I think that part would be cool here, that part would be cool there, and then just kind of winging it through some of it. The other swoosh I had flowers just because of the, peace and love and the kind of transcendence that his music has. Just wanted to kind of do something a little special. Then the inside, the liners, I did at Carolina Blue, so he'd remember he got them in North Carolina.
That's right. Can't forget. So step us through, like, when, and I know you said you would send us a video so we could kind of see the presentation, but like, if you had to say, you know, during all of this while I was talking to him, is there anything that just kind of made you feel like, ugh, I nailed it? Like, was there anything that he pointed out that was special to him that just kind of was everything to you? I mean, probably all of it, right?
I think,
of it.
Yeah, well, I think the coolest part, and I wanted to make it interactive, the JAH on the back of that heel, you can't, you know, he thought it might have said jam 23, like we're jamming in 23. But when I asked him, he got it. And that was one of the cool things. I was like, he knows that, you know, obviously his wife and his kids are a big part of his family. And I wanted to make sure that he knew I made that connection for him so he could say, like, look what this guy made me. It's got your initials on it.
What did your wife think when she saw the finished product? Was she as excited?
Yeah, I mean, she kind of got all of the references. You know, it's funny, for the longest time, we kind of didn't know when we were going to have the chance to give him the shoes. I was like, I'm not going to walk, because I made a acrylic box for a display case, because he's probably never going to wear them. He's going to put them up on a shelf somewhere. And so I was like, I don't want to walk into night one, like, I might see them, you know. So we had lawn seats night one, so we just kind of enjoyed the show. And the night two, we sat up a little bit closer with Trent. But before the concert, right about 5, we met up with his head of security and tossed the shoes off. And he was like, yeah, we're not leaving town immediately after the show tonight, so we'll have time to connect after. But we didn't know that until like an hour before the show started. Like, I still didn't know if I was going to even get to see him. You know, my wife was like, we have to get to meet him. And I was like, I know.
I'm with her.
Yeah. But yeah, it was, you know, the whole experience was really cool. And then right after the show got done, we kind of got shuttled off with a couple other people, probably 5 or 6 other people, into this little room. And, you know, he's in there. We all walk in, and he's like, well, you want a beer? You want a beer? And handed me a Sierra Nevada. And I don't know if you could tell from one of those pictures with me and him in it, I'm wearing a Biggie Smalls T-shirt. Okay. And so he's kind of sitting there telling the story about when him and Trent kind of connected, and he had his hand around somebody. It might have been Trent. He kind of gives me this like side eye. He's like, nice T-shirt. And he didn't say it. He's like, nice shirt. And I was like, yeah, I'm in there.
Well, man, awesome. I cannot think of a cooler story, honestly. Like, not only do you do this as a business and it's a creative passion for you and you've built a whole life around this, but to get to do something that, you know, maybe is not your favorite artist, but to cash in and it's your wife's favorite artist, man, what a great opportunity. And so I think as a woman, if my husband were creating shoes that we gave to Dave Matthews, does your wife have a pair of Dave Matthews Band shoes that you have?
No, she does not. She after this shoe, she was shoe number 2. Her favorite color is green, so I made her a green and white and brown kind of pair. And that was early on, so I was still kind of figuring out the process. But she's definitely due. I've got many, she would tell you too many sides of leather. I've got a whole closet full of it, just different colors, different, like all of this iridescent stuff, just changing colors. And I mean, I can make a pretty cool pair of shoes, I think, and that are different. It's not something you're going to see just sitting on a shelf. And
no,
you know, I'm excited where all this has taken us. And you know, I still think this is the beginning. I've only been doing this about 3 years now, and you know, we've got some pretty cool experiences from this.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, it sounds like everything is going just better than you could have ever imagined. So, if someone is watching this video or is listening to this podcast and they're like, oh, I'd like to reach out to you and create my own custom pair of shoes, is that something that you do? Do you take orders from anyone? And if so, like, how does someone connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to my website, wadecustomshoeco.com, or Instagram is where most of my work is. I'm going to start to get pretty busy here with the NFL season coming up with My Cause, My Cleats, and I just got a couple pairs in today, one from the Chiefs. So that's kind of, when I first started doing this, that was one of the things I wanted to do. I wanted to, paint these guys, because this My Cause, My Cleats thing has really taken off, and custom cleats have taken off in the NFL. I was like, I would really want to paint a pair of cleats and then be able to watch the game on TV and see my cleats and be able to point those out.
Yes.
And that's happened the last couple of years, and it's the coolest thing. We went to a Bears game last year, and there was a couple guys wearing shoes on the sidelines, coaches, Luke Getzey, the offensive coordinator, Sean McGee, he's the chief of staff of the Bears, and a couple other coaches and staff were wearing my shoes. Chase Claypool was actually wearing a pair of cleats I did that day. That was why I got into doing this. I was like, it's really cool when you can see your stuff on TV. I played football in high school and college, and never was good enough to make it to the NFL, but I like to think that I kind of made it there in a respect, with getting my cleats on the field. It's a pretty cool experience.
That's
yes,
amazing.
you are. You're definitely part of the NFL, and so I'll have to. You'll have to keep me in the know of like who's wearing your shoes so that I can get on and be like, there they are. That's so amazing, so amazing.
Yep.
So definitely, guys,
That's
if
neat.
you're interested in seeing more that Chris does, be sure to check out his Instagram page. And hey, Christmas is not too far off, right? So that sounds like an amazing gift. What is your turnaround time for a custom pair of shoes? And then like, what does that process look like if somebody comes to you and they have an idea and they're like, whatever, what does that process look like for you?
I'm open to any form of communication, really. I mean, I've gotten texts, phone calls, FaceTimes. I'm actually working with a girl over in the UK right now, doing a pair of shoes for her, so that's fun, coordinating with the time difference. But yeah, I mean, any way of communication is great. I've got several examples up on my website. There's a couple of, a paint and a build deposit on there, because you never know what something's going to cost until you know what you're going to build it out of.
True.
So I like to kind of, if you want to get in line there, great, but really just going to my website, shooting me an email, chris@wadecustomshoeco.com. Reaching out to me on Instagram. Anything is, I'm open to anything like that. But as far as painting a pair of shoes, like I said, the NFL season's coming up. Cleats are still rolling in. I don't know that I could get that done in less than 4 to 6 weeks. Building a pair, I've got several pairs in the hopper right now. So that may take a little bit longer, 6 to 8, maybe 9, 10 weeks.
The man is in demand.
And again, that's all dependent on, because these NFL cleats, you're going to get them on a Friday for the following Sunday's game. So I've got basically, I've got a couple days to work on it, and then I've got to overnight it because it may be an away game. They're leaving on Friday. They're leaving on Saturday.
Sure.
So it's kind of a time crunch. It makes it, a really busy time of year for me, but it's exciting. And this is my second job. This isn't my primary job. So I do this nights, weekends, free time, anytime that I can, and still try to manage to, be a husband and a father too. So it's a challenge, but in the end, my dream is to make this the main hustle at some point. I mean, it still kind of seems like a pipe dream, but if I'm getting busier than I can handle, I mean, that's a good problem to have.
It's good.
Absolutely.
You get to manage
and
some
again,
more Dave
it's
shows now too.
That's right. That's right.
Yep.
I love to see people chasing their passion. So yeah, it could be a side hustle right now, but I hope that I have no doubt that I think that you're going to be very successful, and it sounds like you already are. So congratulations on all of your success with this. It's amazing. It's amazing the people that you've met.
It is.
Just custom shoes in general are something that, you know, is such a demand right now. I mean, I have 4 children. They're older, you know, 21, 18. And so I know that custom shoes, even with my 13-year-old, it's something that people are seeking after because people really want to be like the only one with shit, right? And so that is a way that you can be the only one with these shoes or whatever. So I can't imagine that business is going to slow down for you anytime soon, especially with Christmas coming soon. So get ready. I think you're going to stay really busy, and we wish you all of the luck and success that you can totally have. And so thank you so much, Chris, for being on the show. I'm going to ask you a few Dave Matthews Band questions because, of course, this podcast is about the Dave.
I was going to say I had some.
Yes, Andy, let's go ahead. We'll let you talk.
Oh, you're going to put me on the spot here. Come on now.
No. I was curious because when we first started, I was under the impression you were a lifer, but you just recently came in today, you said through West Palm a couple of years back, and it popped in my head, what was it at what point during that show did it click for you where you were like, holy shit, these guys are different, or this is for real? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think just, you know, when you listen to music on the radio, you don't hear everything, but when you see, you know, Jeff or any of those guys doing their thing and just kind of going off, it's like, wow, they don't really do that on the, you know, track version, but when they're live, they kind of get their juices flowing. I mean, it's addicting to kind of watch. And a lot of other performers, you know, like I went to the Wu-Tang show last year. I think it was in Charlotte. Or no, it was Raleigh. And, you know, I knew all the words and stuff like that. But it sounded just like the CD when it was on the radio. I mean, I think that's one thing that's really intriguing about Dave is that he never really plays the same song twice. You always hear it differently. And when you're there in person, it's like, this is the best he's ever played it. And then you go see another show, and he's like, the same song, we played it better that time. You know,
every show is better than the last.
Yeah.
Yes. I agree completely with you.
Awesome.
It's there's nothing like live Dave Matthews Band, and that's why we all continue to keep going, right? Like that's the chase, is because we know that it just continues to get better, so we just keep going. And so, you know, what an amazing band to be able to do that. But not only that, but just each person in the band individually, how talented they are and how committed they are to this music. And so we're so thrilled to be alive at the same time as the Dave Matthews Band. And so I love hearing your story. So if you had to name, and I hate this question so much, but I'm totally going to ask you because you're a new fan, what song sticks out to you? Like if you had to say, play this, what would it be?
It would probably be, because it's my wife's favorite song, 41. You know, when I was doing my research, you know, and I was trying to figure out a way. I wanted to put 41 on the shoe, but I didn't end up doing it. I was trying to figure out a way to incorporate it. When I was learning about it, the first time, do you know when the first time he ever played that song, where it was?
No,
Andy?
Stump you guys.
No, I don't know.
No, not off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I don't know.
The first time he ever played that show, and like I said before, I put Carolina Blue on the shoe. He played it at Kenan Indoor Stadium at Duke.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I'm like, man, they could have at least played it at Carolina.
You could have put Duke colors on there.
Oh, you know I'm such a big Duke fan.
No,
You're a fan of all the wrong teams.
I gotta go.
I'm sorry. I can't help it. It was the way I was raised.
Yeah.
So he played it for the first
What
time
about
at Duke.
do you have Well, since you've been listening for a while, I'm assuming you've gone to a handful of shows. Is there any particular song that you've been hoping to hear that you haven't heard yet?
I can't say that I know them by name enough to be able to say that, you know. I do know that in Wilmington he didn't play 41, and my wife was like, I really wanted to play that song. So I mean, it's like I said, it's a different show every time. He plays it a different way every time. I mean, you're always going to get your money's worth when you go to a show. And
are you going to any more?
We don't have any planned this summer right now. I mean, like I said, I've got a 17-month-old, and you know, paying a babysitter. I mean, our local shows are about as good as it's going to get for us.
Yes.
I get it.
Totally get it. Totally get it. Well, Chris, we cannot thank you enough for just, you know, I know that your time is valuable, and between all the orders that you have and life in general with your family, thank you so much for taking time out to tell us the story that honestly I've kind of been waiting to hear. Like I said, I met Wendy in Charleston, and from the moment she told me about your story, and of course showed me the pictures while we're sitting there in the bleachers, I was like, I definitely want to hear his story, even if he'll just tell me. So thank you for being willing to tell everyone who listens to this podcast or watches on YouTube your story. I think that it's fascinating. I love making connections with fans who are doing, you know, who are taking their passion, whatever it is, and of course yours is the art of building shoes, but then also just incorporating other people's passions inside of those passions, like it's your wife's thing, and obviously it made it to Dave and all of the football players. And so again, congratulations on all of your success, and thank you so much for being part of the show. Guys, if you were listening to this, be sure to check out Chris.
Absolutely.
And definitely think about your Christmas orders. It's not too late now to start shopping for Christmas, and we know that this is a gift that just about anybody would love. So be sure to reach out to Chris. Chris and Andy, thank you so much for being part of the show this week. Guys, again, if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening to this on podcast, do the reverse so that you can see and hear all of the things, and be sure to stay tuned, as I will be in SPAC and in New Jersey and all the different places, and so we'll be live from those places, so be sure to keep tuning in as I travel. I'm so excited to get to bring more fans to the show, because we all do it the same. We all love the same things, and so that is what this show is about, is the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. So again, Chris, Andy, thank you so much for being on the show this week.
Thank you.